we're going to cover a lot of ground, as Tarika Prabhu usually says at the end. My class is like, man, you covered a lot of ground. So I never realized that. And then whenever I was preparing for this class, I'm like, he's right. Um, so we'll talk about this pastime of Ajamil and also so many things about chanting without offenses, about satisfaction, about trying to be free from the fault-finding propensity, and also tying in the pastime of Lord Vamanade with that and speaking about Bali Maharaj. So certainly a lot of points. But whenever I was reading this text 31, at the first thing that I thought of, because Prabhupada in the purport is talking so much about not trying to counteract our sinful activities through chanting. That's an offense to the holy name, as we read in the 10 offenses, at least on Ekadashi, if not every day. And then the last line that Prabhupada says is, if by chance a devotee accidentally performs some sinful activity, the Lord will excuse him, but one should not intentionally perform sinful acts. And that reminded me, I just took some screenshots of the verses on my phone, so that reminded me of, did I? That the verse in the Bhagavad Gita in the 9th chapter, is it Avichet Sudaracharo? 9th chapter, text 30. Yeah, even if, Avichet Sudaracharo bhajate mamananya bhaksadar eva samantavya samyagyava sito hisaha. Even if one commits the most abominable action, if he is engaged in devotional service, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated in his determination. And it's a long purport. It's very nice. I was studying it yesterday. Um, and oh man, there's so many. If I go into this purport, it would be like a whole class in and of itself. Even one paragraph of the of the purport that Prabhupada makes to this verse. But yeah, just that we we should keep this in mind for whenever we're associating with devotees, to not immediately uh, deride them or condemn them or whatever for whatever, apparent faults we may see. And then the flip side of that is, like Prabhupada says in this last line of today's purport, that a devotee should not intentionally perform sinful acts. So, we like to cut ourselves a break, like, oh, well, I might be, have this, and this, and this shortcoming, but I expect people to be understanding. And, I'm still sincere. I'm still trying to be a devotee. So we should apply that same to whenever we are associating with other devotees, not just cut ourselves slack and then, condemn everybody else. So, yeah, of course, this verse in the 930 of the Bhagavad Gita can also be misapplied and has been misapplied in the past, where, anything any devotee does is just like goes without questioning, or will let them off the hook. That's not the point. Like, yeah, shouldn't let really major things like abuse or et cetera, go unchecked. But the point is that the one of the top qualities of a brahmana is forgiveness. So even the two things can exist simultaneously, and a lot of the times materially that's not found. That how can you forgive somebody and at the same time take the proper steps to rectify a situation? But as devotees, we can get factual experience of that, to have forgiveness in the heart, but not be naive, not be stupid, not ignore things so that we keep finding ourselves in the same situation. So anyway, that was just the first thing that I thought of. And so Prabhupada says in this purport to 930 that the words Sadar Eva, he is saintly, are very emphatic. They are a warning to the non-devotees that because of an accidental fall down, a devotee should not be derided. He should still be considered saintly, even if he has accidentally fallen down. And the word mantavya is still more emphatic. If one does not follow this rule and derides a devotee for his accidental fall down, then one is disobeying the order of the Supreme Lord. The only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. So I thought that this is a very nice part of the purport because, I feel like usually we see fall down in terms of like breaking the regular principles or something. Yeah, fall down feels like a really major thing. But I was contemplating how much if my mind gets the best of me and I have a fault-finding mentality, that, we can see so many things as like an apparent fall down of another devotee, oh, that devotee was um, being dishonest. Oh, that devotee uh, eats too much. Oh, that devotee, whatever, like whatever ways our mind can concoct. And so it's saying, this is Prabhupada's saying in this report, this is a warning to the non-devotees, but I was thinking, I mean, yeah, out of humility, a lot of times devotees will say, "Oh, I'm a non-devotee too." But let's just say, even applied to devotees, we shouldn't just deride each other for apparent flaws, because Prabhupada says the only qualification of a devotee is to be unflinchingly and exclusively engaged in devotional service. And we can sometimes this is like, whoa, kind of a hard concept to grasp, or it feels theoretical because, well, at least I might not have a lot of experience of this, being able to um, not be naive, but at the same time really see the good in others and how much service they're doing and the quality of service that they're doing and their sincerity. And this is actually the vision of the topmost advanced devotees, is that people can just do the most outrageous things, but they still are able to have forgiveness in their hearts. And I've seen that. Prabhupada is a fantastic example, right? That I was thinking of this one. Oh, where is it? I wrote it down, but there's this one example of Prabhupada that either I've heard it multiple times from Devaramrita Maharaj or it's in the Leelamrita. I can't remember. But essentially, that one of Prabhupada's sannyasis had quote unquote fallen down and was then a grihasta. And that I feel like it's in the Leelamrita. Um, and then they had asked, or other devotees had asked, I think that devotee asked, had quote unquote fallen down, um, you know, essentially, will Prabhupada, will you still accept me? And because they were thinking of, like Lord Chaitanya, he was so staunch, like he didn't even want to associate with anybody that even thought of women, let alone, yeah, ending their sannyas order of life to then associate with a woman. And Prabhupada said, um, along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but I'm not Lord Chaitanya. I need all the help I can get. So we can see in so many cases, Prabhupada, as they say, hard as a thunderbolt, soft as a rose. Like he wasn't going to tolerate nonsense, but at the same time, he was so forgiving and so compassionate. And it's amazing that those two things, they seem contradictory, but that they can exist in the same person. And I've also seen it with my own spiritual master that, some people that just, some devotees, his disciples that just repeatedly, like, can just stab him in the back, like take everything that he's said or done for them and just like completely twist it the opposite way, use it against him. And he has no malice in his heart about it. Like I'm just shocked. At first it's like kind of, it feels like you're hearing um because it almost seems like somebody that would be naive, right? Like they almost reflect each other when it's like that level of forgiveness seems like naivete at first. And it's like, how can you, what? Like you're not taking this seriously enough. This is crazy. But it's just because they have so much forgiveness in the heart and they're actively choosing to see how much service that person has done and how much they sacrificed at one point or another, even if in that current moment, they're not, yeah, they're they're not they're not practicing bhakti. we're not practicing in a good mood. Yeah, and I've seen it with other devotees too, not just like Prabhupada disciples or gurus or this or that, but even Mangalarti is another great example. I've definitely seen with her like, wow, there's so much things hurt, but there's also so much forgiveness in the heart. And like, even if other people can speak so poorly of them, these people that like maybe they once helped, that 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 person, whether it's her or anybody, somebody that's very sincere, just chooses to not then turn around and speak poorly about the other person. It would be so easy for any of these devotees that, get a lot of flack to say, oh, but that person's like that, and I know this about them, and you wouldn't believe the things that they've told me that I could use against them. It's just, you really have to control the senses, bite the tongue, practice forgiveness and tolerance, um, and not in an artificial way. So anyway, that was a whole point that I didn't write down, but I was just like thinking about how to tangibly we can see that in devotees, like that it's not just a theoretical thing that we talk about, but I have seen it manifesting in devotees before my eyes, this like quality of forgiveness at the same time being smart and taking action. So yeah, we should be realistic that, we get a whole subtle and gross machine given to us. The essentially, yeah, we get this whole subtle and gross machine based on envy, so that we can just operate in this material world. I mean, we have to be embodied in something, and so every part, every the subtle body is imbued with envy, like the gross body, everything, it's woven in. Um, and it's to facilitate our envy. It's to facilitate that envy of Krishna. So yeah, we should just be realistic about that fact. And I was hearing one lecture. I was trying to look this up, and then in the second canto, and then I spaced out and I didn't write it down. But I was hearing that like whenever Brahma is creating the universe, what's the first thing that he creates? I think that that's what this devotee was saying. And different devotees are saying like, oh, like ego and this, that, and the other. And she was saying in this lecture, it's self-deception. Like it's deception. So this whole foundation of this whole universe is that is fault, is self-deception, is that we are kidding ourselves, we're deceiving ourselves in thinking that we can enjoy separately from Krishna. So knowing that that's the basis, then I was thinking of some practical steps that if maybe we want to practice more seeing the good in others instead of this dissatisfaction of, well, this is wrong, that's wrong, and they should do this better, and this, that, and the other, that I thought of some practical, this is something I've been meditating on, if you can't, and trying to improve in myself, if you can't tell. So yeah, some practical steps. And they kind of go from on a more, I don't want to say on a more personal level, but more on a more individual level, to then including others in getting outside help to help us through this process. So the first one is just knowing, like I said, the foundation of this material world, the foundation of Kali Yuga, living entities in this world, that we're subject to four faults, right? We have imperfect senses, we are prone to illusion, we're forgetful, and we make mistakes. But so, I was thinking about myself, I'm like, wow, all these things are true, like illusion and mistakes, and I forget, and this, that, and the other. But I can come to a conclusion, even about myself, like, oh, I am this way, or why do I always do like this, or about somebody else. Like it's an absolute truth conclusion, even though, we're subject to these four faults. So, that's one thing, is just knowing that as the basis. And then the second thing is that if we do have, yeah, some kind of disagreement or discomfort or conflict or whatever it might be, that we should clarify, then, bring in, like I said, outside help, clarify and ask questions, or at least find somebody that you trust to, maybe, um, yeah, express these things to somebody that won't just agree with you, but can actually give you Krishna conscious advice. And I was thinking, okay, one example I was thinking of, I guess this isn't really fault finding, but just an example of how easily illusioned we are, is that Monica, I'm glad you're on this. I'm glad you're on this call. The other day, I had this, what day was that? I think it was during the retreat. Anyway, I had this conversation with a devotee uh, beforehand that morning, and I was feeling really agitated and just like disturbed and insecure and all kinds of stuff. And then I had to kind of forget what I was doing, maybe going to some other service. And Madhavan sent me a message about this, that I was trying to like press some tofu. I'd seen Damodar Katal use this, where he puts a tray and then like a straining tray, and then you put the tofu, and then you put a tray of water on, or you put, yeah, a tray of water on top, and that weight presses it down. So I had two trays of that. And somebody had thought, like they were trying to serve out the lunch, somebody had thought that it was subji. So they like, just grabbed the tray, not realizing that there's like a whole bunch of water on top, and it spilled all over, and it spilled on the floor and this and that. And so Madhavan had sent me a message about it, and I was like already just in a mood. And I was like, oh, great. She was like, oh, and the water spilled on the floor. And I thought she was asking me to come clean it up. And I was like already so like, why do I have to clean it up? They're the ones that spilled it. Like, it's not my fault if they, if they were being dumb and they didn't know that they didn't look to see if there's water on top and this and that. My mind was just going and going. And then I tried to collect myself, and then I sent her a message back about it. And she was like, oh, I was sending you that message, like we cleaned it up and everything. I was sending you that message just as a courtesy, like so that in case you wanted to have your tofu pressed. Like I'm not sure if there's enough water in it now. So she was doing it out of like trying to help me out and out of, yeah, support and love for another devotee. And I'm thinking that she's like, criticizing me for having even done that in the first place. Like there's like other cooking going on, and that now it's my job to come clean it up. So just such a simple thing, and it's like, wow, I mean, three of those apply: mistakes, illusion, imperfect senses. And it was just a really good example of how important it is to, yeah, clarify with devotees if there's some, I don't know, some discomfort or some like, oh, then its first step is how about we just clarify and ask questions. Hey, what did you mean by that? Um, what was the need behind this? What was the intention? Like that. And then number three is also being humble. So that ties in with, yeah, knowing that we're subject to the four defects. But I really like this quote from Devamarita Maharaj that I always remember. He said that humility means that there's so much that's going on that's beyond my perception, and even what I think is in my perception, something like I'm also probably misperceived or like wrong about that. And I thought that's a very interesting definition of humility. I can find the quote somewhere. But yeah, just that we're not omnipotent. There's so much going on beyond us, even on our day-to-day dealings. What to speak of, how the universe functions and outer space and the deep ocean and things like that. Even just, I mean, as the example he often gives is, even knowing what's happening inside of our body is that's foreign to us. How is my food actually being digested? What are the bacteria in my gut doing? How does my brain work? All these kind of things. And then number four is bringing in outside help. So inquiring from others that we trust, again, to give us good Krishna conscious advice, not just somebody that agrees with us, in a mood of true desire to actually, be able to uplift ourselves as well as the other person that we might be like, why do they do like this? Or fault finding. Um, yeah, that goes along with just seeking, in general, seeking good, positive, enthusiastic senior association. And last but not least is praying to Krishna. You can pray to Krishna however you like, but I thought two good prayers in this connection or themes of prayers would be one, if we find ourselves falling into this mentality, to pray to not become cynical, and to be able to see all that devotees are doing and how they're sacrificing. And secondly, and this is one thing that a senior devotee said to me recently that I had never even considered, was that if we see some discrepancy, if we think there's some discrepancy in another devotee's character or a senior leader's character or something like that, then we should actually, have a heart of compassion and pray, not in like a condescending way, but just that, yeah, help. If this is a fact, if this is a true thing, then, please, Krishna, help me uh, see them with compassion and help them to be able to work through this if they need to be able to come closer to you. So, mm, yeah, so this ties in with the point that the quality, like I said, not one of the top qualities of a Brahmana is forgiveness. And I already gave those examples of, um, yeah, seeing Deva Amrita Maharaj's forgiveness, Prabhupada, at the same time not tolerating nonsense, which is an interesting contradiction to, or seeming contradiction to exist in a person. And sorry, I had jumped ahead. So, oh yeah, I wanted to just read actually the qualities of a Brahmana from the 18th chapter, which I'm sure most of you already know. Peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, and religiousness. These are the natural qualities by which the Brahmanas work. So, I want to talk about Vamanadeva too, but I'll try to see how to tie that in, or how I was going to tie that in. Mm. Oh, that was the point. So one quality is forgiveness, and then the other thing that I've been meditating on is satisfaction, because if we do have this kind of mentality of not, you know, not practicing seeing the good in others, or the good in our situation, or even the good in ourselves, then that brings quite a lot of dissatisfaction. And it's not very easy to be an enthusiastic devotee if you're constantly meditating on ways that you're dissatisfied, things that dissatisfy you, etc., etc. And a really easy way to do that, to make yourself super dissatisfied, is to look for faults, or again, not practicing the good in others. And this is a major point of the pastime of Lord Vamanadev and Bali Maharaj. Famously, when Vamanadev was asking Bali Maharaj for 3 steps of land, and Bali Maharaj was saying, "Oh, you inexperienced Brahmana boy, I could give you so much more than that. I could give you villages. I could give you beautiful Brahmana wives. I could give you gold, riches, jewels, elephants, whatever you like. So you're just asking me for 3 paces of land?" And then Vamanadev famously replies, "That one who is not satisfied with 3 steps of land won't be satisfied even if he gains the whole universe." So, yeah, I think that that's a very good point to meditate on today, that practicing satisfaction, as it said in Bhagavad Gita, that it's an austerity of mind, is to practice satisfaction, which does not seem like a thing, like I never considered before bhakti. Oh, that's something that I can practice, is satisfaction. Nobody really teaches you that. Actually, oh, there is one purport that I wanted to read, that dissatisfaction is the basis of the material world, and also the basis of specifically the Western world and capitalism. That's like, that is definitely the basis. Where is it? Mm, maybe I just read it earlier. Anyway, I'll find it later. But yeah, so dissatisfaction. Sorry, coming back to that. So in this pastime, yeah, we can see that Bali Maharaj, he loses everything, but he's still satisfied. Or perhaps, I mean, he's already a pure devotee, but perhaps from this pastime we can learn, he's even more satisfied because he got a chance to exhibit his love to Vamanadev. And yeah, it's interesting just this whole pastime because there's this one verse, actually twice. Bali Maharaj, he mentions his family heritage, his lineage, descending from Prahlad Maharaj. And the second time that he's speaking to Shukracharya, and they're debating, I guess, over should Bali Maharaj give everything to, or give 3 steps of land to this Brahmana boy. And Shukracharya is saying, no, he's Vishnu. You're going to lose everything. And if Bali Maharaj loses everything, then that means he's not going to get any donations. Shukracharya won't get any donations. So Shukracharya is arguing, how are you can't perform Dharma. How can you be a good Grihasta if you have no wealth? If this Vishnu disguised as a Brahmana boy takes everything from you, then you're not going to be able to fulfill your moral obligation. And yeah, so that's interesting. And just the name of Shukracharya lets you know his position that he is a Brahmana by dint of seminal injection, that he's just, by birth, he's supposedly a Brahmana. So he's kind of like a ritualistic Vedic mover and shaker. He's like trying to, cut deals and maneuver the situation. And Bali Maharaj is speaking to Shukracharya, yeah, on the level that Shukracharya can understand, counteracting him and saying that this is why he's quoting his family lineage, is because he's saying he has to keep his promise. And in Vedic culture, that is the general, um, I mean, moral obligation from just a Vedic standpoint, is that even if you make a promise and then it turns out to not be in your favor, that you still keep that promise. It's morally binding. And so it's like, well, why is Bali Maharaj why is he counteracting Shukracharya's moral arguments with more moral arguments? He's he's a devotee, like Bali Maharaj should be above this. But he's speaking to Shukracharya again at the level that Shukracharya is at. He's not going to say, I want to give everything to Vishnu out of prema and pure love, because Shukracharya would not be able to comprehend that. So, yeah, that's why he's quoting his family lineage 2 times in this pastime, the second time. And also it highlights the point, Prabhupada in the purport to that verse, where Bali Maharaj is quoting his family heritage, speaks extensively about sadhana siddha and kripa siddha, and is saying that Bali Maharaj is a case of a kripa siddha devotee. Also, Prabhupada says Shukadeva Goswami is as well. He's a kripa siddha devotee and is getting that mercy from Prahlad Maharaj, getting this opportunity to be able to have this pastime with Krishna. And yeah, it's really nice. There's other examples, like, yeah, Prabhupada mentions Shukracharya, and then also there's the Yagyapatnis in the Krishna book, 10th canto, which is also a very nice pastime about, yeah, just getting Krishna's mercy, even though, I mean, they're in Krishna's pastime, so they've already gotten his mercy extensively, but just the way the pastime unfolds is like they weren't sadhana siddhas. They were Krita siddhas because they just get like at first, the cowherd boys go and approach the yogic brahmanas, and similar, it's kind of a similar case to Shukracharya where they're just practicing the rituals and they can't even be bothered with worrying about Krishna, the higher moral obligation. They think they're being very moral, they're executing Dharma, but in actuality, there's an even higher principle than that. So they shun the cowherd boys, and the cowherd boys go back to Krishna, and they're disappointed. Oh, we came back empty-handed um, from their Sankirtan efforts, and Krishna says, that is the way of begging. Sometimes you come back empty-handed, but you still uh, go on with your duty. And so then Krishna says, okay, go approach the wives of the Brahmanas. So they go approach the wives of the Brahmanas, and yeah, this time the wives of the Brahmanas are like, oh my gosh, Krishna and Balaram are hungry. Like we have to do something. We have to feed them. And they just like abandon everything, abandon their husbands, everything just to serve Krishna. And an interesting point that I was hearing in a lecture by Devamrita Maharaj is that the Yajapatnis, they like the reason Krishna didn't just tell the cowherd boys to approach them first was because he was like, oh, he knew that they would react that way and just drop everything to serve him. So he thought, oh, I won't disturb them. Let's try out the husbands first. Of course, Krishna is omniscient, he knows everything, but um, yeah, so that's why he instructed the cowherd boys to go to the brahmanas first. Huh, so, okay. Um, I don't know if I want to hop back to the pastime of Ajamil. That's like a whole other point. So another point about this pastime of Vamanadev is that, yeah, just well, I guess similar point about satisfaction is that we should be satisfied with whatever comes to us, and that, yeah, means our situation. I mean, there's also that verse in the 10th canto, is it the 11th chapter? That tate nukumbam sisamikshana punjana evatma kritam vipakam pridvagvapurvir pridadhanamaste something mukti I always forget the fourth line. But that essentially, yeah, we should just tolerate what is coming to us by dint of our past karma, like accept those reactions, all the while just having faith, knowing that we are on the way to Krishna, and then liberation becomes our rightful claim. So I like this point. I was hearing this one devotee say that, uh, again, just on this point of satisfaction and not fault finding, because that's pretty much the easiest way to be dissatisfied or finding fault in our scenario, situation, finding fault in ourselves, is that specifically in relation to, yeah, kind of worrying about what others are doing. Are they up to scratch in our minds? Is that, whenever, if we're to enter Goloka Vrindavan, it's not like we're going to be asked. I mean, it's kind of like a different conception, like at the gate of Goloka Vrindavan, like at the gate of heaven, that, we're not going to be asked, oh, did you make sure everybody else was doing what they're supposed to? Because you're supposed to do that too, not just worry about yourself, but you're supposed to worry about, being like my brother's keeper kind of thing. Yeah, we're not going to be asked that. So we should just be self-reflective, conscious of what we're doing, um, and trying to improve our own Krishna consciousness. And that's actually the best way that we can help others and make change. I think I'm gonna stop there because I did cover a lot of ground. Um, yeah, does anybody have any comments or questions? it would be nice to hear some devotees' contributions and reflections on this point of satisfaction.
I have loads of comments. There's no time for all the comments. We could discuss these subjects you could discuss for days. I'll try to squeeze some of the salient points in here quickly before we run out of time. As far as you spoke a lot about forgiveness, and I want to say the position of a devotee, Vaishnava, is beyond forgiveness. He actually doesn't see the faults to begin with. You pointed out that one should not be naive, which is upheld by Srila Prabhupada's instruction to us. I can give an example of this in the early to mid 1970s in New York. We had a leader. He was the GBC and Temple president, and he had actually been a sannyasi, and then long story, but he married at some point. But in any case, he fell into some pretty serious maya under the influence of this. The woman that he married was she had convinced the devotees that she was the heiress of the Toyota company, that she was the daughter of the fellow who was responsible for Toyota, and it was all a lie. And she was actually quite degraded. Long story, but long story short, there were a lot of abuses of devotees that took place during this period of time. Some terrible things were going on. Offenses to the deities, a lot of offenses to the devotees. This woman was very, very abusive, especially of the women. She had engaged women as her personal servant, and was very, very abusive. She was eating meat in the temple. At times, inadvertently, meat products were offered to the deities. Devotees were accepting Mahaprasad, what they thought was Mahaprasad, and including meat. I remember once I honored what I thought was Mahaprasad. It was a shrimp roll. I wound up eating shrimp. I was marveling at the expertise of the cooks. I thought, wow, this is amazing. They have somehow expertly reproduced the texture and the appearance and the taste of actual shrimp. And another devotee chastised me severely for even mentioning shrimp, but in fact, it was shrimp. Anyway, I'm digressing, but so a lot of terrible things happened, the worst of which were terrible abuses and offenses of the devotees. And so there was the devotees at the time were being naive about what was going on. They had heard all kinds of glorification of these devotees. They thought they were extremely advanced, and that, what if we think we see something that's off, it's just that we don't understand. So eventually this came to the attention of Srila Prabhupada after things came to a head. Srila Prabhupada was extremely unhappy with the fact that the senior devotees, who should have known better, had taken no action, or at least not for quite some time. The junior devotees, Srila Prabhupada was very pleased with them for the fact that they continued to perform their service uninterruptedly in spite of the abuses and the fact that their leader was in a fallen state. He was happy with that, but unhappy with the senior devotees. He explained that it is particularly the responsibility of the senior devotees to take action under such circumstances, but that the younger devotees should not have to think about such things. They shouldn't have to question whether or not their leader is in Maya or not. It's just not. It's not the right frame of mind for them. And there is recorded a discussion that took place in this period of time. Some devotees were inquiring of Srila Prabhupada some associated issues. So this was a morning walk, as I recall. Guru Das said, if there is a devotees who are not yet purified, if the devotee is not yet purified, why is the temple president a representative of you? If we are not at the purified stage, then why is the temple president a representative of yourself? Srila Prabhupada said to carry his order, that is purification. If you create your own atmosphere, then you become impure. If you simply carry out the order of your spiritual master, then they will be purified. If you do your own business, that is not good. You cannot do anything which is not ordered by your spiritual master. Of course, everyone should have sense. It is not that we are dull stone. Unless it is moved, it cannot, if you have got moving power, but the basic issue should be to carry out the orders of his spiritual master. That is your president. Otherwise, you are not. Hari Kesh says, sometimes we have the experience of someone in authority who is obviously not following your instructions. And Srila Prabhupada said, and this is interesting, you should take note of this. Devotees have a hard time accepting this, but these are Srila Prabhupada's words. He said, that you have not to judge. Harikesh says, Srila Prabhupada said, you are not to judge. You should know that this man is appointed as a representative of my spiritual master. I must follow. You cannot judge him. Harikesh says, Srila Prabhupada said, that is not your business to judge. So Harikesh says, then we simply wait for further instructions from you and keep. And Srila Prabhupada interrupts him and says, no further instructions. He says, so long he is president, you must follow him. If he is wrong, that will be corrected by the spiritual master. Harikesh says, I see. Srila Prabhupada said, you cannot correct him. Otherwise, obedience is the first discipline. If you do not obey the representative authority, then there cannot be any discipline. Then everything will be topsy-turvy. Harikesh says, you would rather have us follow the temple president. Srila Prabhupada says, yes. He said, if he is wrong, he will come out. So the steps will be taken by the spiritual master. Do not try to rectify. Harikesh says, our advancement is the same. And Srila Prabhupada said, yes. And that was a question that many of the devotees had. We've been rendering service under the direction of this fallen leader. Are we still getting transcendental credit for that? Even we've been misengaged by that leader. And Srila Prabhupada's reply was that yes, you're getting credit because you are cooperating with your authority and you're following my instruction. But that if there was a problem with a superior, Guru or Krishna will deal with that. It's not the business of the rank and file devotees. However, the senior devotees, Srila Prabhupada was unhappy with them that they failed to take action. So there's that. Apart from that, of course, a Vaishnava generally does not see faults in others. There are many verses to that effect. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15, we have some mention of this, text 43 to 44. It says, in the conditioned stage, one's conditions of life are sometimes polluted by passion and ignorance, which are exhibited by attachment, hostility, greed, lamentation, illusion, fear, madness, false prestige, insults, fault finding, and it goes on. There's many other verses which discuss this, but devotees should not see faults. The devotee sees only the good in others. But at the same time, they're not stupid. And sometimes there's a necessity to recognize when things are not right, because sometimes serious harm can be done if we overlook or ignore some wrongdoing. Especially senior devotees have to be responsible for other devotees and protect them from such things. It should be understood that at some stage or other of our progress in Krishna consciousness, we want to completely overcome the mentality of seeing faults. If we rise to the platform of Uttama Adhikari, most advanced devotee, not only does he not see faults in others from his perspective, every individual, even the non-devotees, he sees them all as superior to himself. Not even other people, animals, everything. He sees everything as superior to him. He sees Guru and Krishna in everything, even inanimate objects, and he takes direction from Guru and Krishna through all those things all the time. He never sees faults in others, but that's very advanced stage. Anyway, there's so much to unpack. We could discuss for days, but I should kneel if there's someone with their hand up. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you, Prabhu. You were just, thank you for recounting that pastime with Prabhupada. You were just reminding me that I forgot to say it in regards to the pastime of Ajamil, that I was hearing Devamrita Maharaj say that there's a tape of Prabhupada speaking about Ajamil, and devotees are asking, or it was a room conversation, but devotees were asking about fall downs. I guess there's something happening in the LA temple and some discrepancy, and so devotees were trying to apply that verse from the Bhagavad Gita 9:30, and Prabhupada was saying essentially that they're misapplying it, and so devotees were asking him how are they to know, like, if what that devotee did is like to be forgiven or not, or if it's a major fall down. And Prabhupada, Jayavarman Maharaj's point was that Prabhupada said so softly that he had to keep rewinding the tape, that he was saying that's for the spiritual master to judge. Yeah, that devotees can't judge that if it was like an accidental fall down or a premeditated thing. Sorry, that was the point. If it was accidental or premeditated. Yeah, anyway, so I found that a very interesting point that, Prabhupada made that point so softly, and he was saying, David Razor Maharaj was saying, Prabhupada wasn't saying that as like a public thing, because it can be like quite a sensitive issue. Leela Kishore, did you want to say anything quickly? I saw your hand raised. Sorry.
Really quickly. Haribo, first of all, your class was like a tapestry. You took so many beautiful threads, so much sastra, and just wove it into this beautiful, beautiful creation. It was wonderful. And I loved the points that you talked, especially at the end when you told the story of Krishna and sending the cowherd boys to beg, and how that's the biggest thing is for me to remember I'm not a Yamaduta. It's not my job to like judge somebody and drag them to their punishment. And when we realize that Krishna is the controller, everybody's going to get what they need. So the cowherd boys figured out, oh, so sometimes begging doesn't go the way you think it's going to go, and you still have to do what you've been sent out to do, and you come back to Krishna and maybe you wail and you cry, but then you go back out and do what you're sent out to do. And then the Brahmanas got a lesson because, their wives got rewarded. They got what they wanted. They got to serve Krishna and Balaram directly. And at the same time, Brahmanas got admonished in like a really cool kind of way, like, oops, we really messed up there. I also love your point about forgiveness, and that, I was taught I should never look down on someone unless I'm reaching my hand out to help them up. And I want to be judged by my intentions. I want everybody to assume I have positive intent, but I'm judging other people when I judge by their actions. And so it's always a thing to ask, to say this particular thing that you said or did really disturbed me, but maybe I don't understand what's going on. And have that conversation, extend other devotees that respect, and that care to at least have the conversation and be honest about myself that I took this in a way as an offense. I see the doors opening. Haribol, thank you.
Thank you so much. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Prabhupada. Charana.
Mm.